It was a rainy afternoon in the heart of the city. People hurried under umbrellas, cars splashed water over sidewalks, and a cold wind swept through the streets. On a busy corner outside a luxury shopping mall, a small crowd had gathered. Not because of some celebrity or street performer, but because of a single moment that changed everything. A man in a sharp navy suit stepped out of his black luxury car. His name was Victor Harlan, Billionaire, CEO. Known for his ruthless business tactics, Victor was the kind of man who walked through life believing everyone else was beneath him. He didn't just demand respect, he expected worship. His time was money, and in his mind, anyone who wasted it didn't deserve to be in his presence. Victor was already in a foul mood. A deal had fallen through that morning, and his assistant had double-booked his lunch meeting. He was on edge. As he walked briskly toward the entrance of the mall, his polished shoes clicked against the wet pavement. Just then, a young girl, no older than 17, bumped into him accidentally. She was soaked, shivering, her clothes worn and patched. A small cloth bag clung to her shoulder, and her eyes were filled with panic as she stumbled backward. I'm sorry, sir," she whispered, lowering her head, avoiding his gaze. Victor didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't even hesitate. In one swift, heated moment, blinded by stress, ego, and pride, he raised his hand and slapped her across the face. The crowd gasped. Some people froze. Others looked around, unsure whether to speak up. The girl didn't cry. She simply held her cheek, still staring at the ground. Then, without a word, she turned and disappeared into the crowd. Victor scoffed, muttered something under his breath, and walked into the mall like nothing had happened. But that slap? That single heartless act would soon become the beginning of a storm Victor never saw coming. The next morning, Victor's face was everywhere, on social media, news articles, and trending hashtags. Someone in the crowd had caught everything on camera. The video had gone viral overnight. "Billionaire assaults homeless girl," the headline screamed. Victor's PR team scrambled. They claimed it was a misunderstanding. They tried to paint the girl as someone who was trying to rob him. But the footage didn't lie. There was no aggression from her. Just a frightened, lost girl and an angry man who didn't think twice before lashing out. People wanted to know, who was the girl? Where did she go? Why hadn't she come forward? But no one could find her. Weeks passed. Victor refused to apologize. He claimed it was all being blown out of proportion. She was nobody, he told one of his board members in a private call, which, unfortunately for him, got leaked. These street rats need to learn boundaries. His company's stock started to dip. Endorsements were pulled. He was asked to step down from several philanthropic boards. But Victor didn't care. Or at least, he pretended not to. Then came the twist. One crisp morning, Victor arrived at his office to find a letter on his desk. It wasn't from his assistant. No one knew who had left it. It was handwritten with graceful, flowing cursive. "I know who you are. Do you know who I am?" Victor smirked. "A prank," he said. He tossed the letter aside. But then another came. And another. And another. They weren't threatening. They were calm. Almost poetic. But they all ended the same way. "Do you know who I am?" Then one day, a news anchor made an announcement that shook the city. Alexis Lechler, the only surviving granddaughter of the late shipping magnate Jacques Lechler, has returned to the country after over a decade overseas. The 18-year-old heiress is set to inherit an estate valued at over $900 million. Victor dropped his glass of scotch when he heard the name. Alexis Lechler. That name hadn't crossed his mind in years. But he remembered Jacques, a powerful man, a rival in business. And Alexis? The little girl he'd seen once at a gala years ago? He scrambled to find a photo. And there she was. The same soft eyes. The same quiet expression. It was her. The girl he slapped. The nobody. Victor went pale. Within days, Alexis's team announced she would be starting a new foundation to support young people who were struggling with homelessness, abuse, and neglect. At her press conference, she stood tall, elegant, and calm. When asked about the incident in front of the mall, she spoke clearly. "Yes, that was me," she said, her voice steady. "And no, I didn't come forward at the time because I didn't want sympathy. I wanted to see how people would react, what kind of man he really was. Reporters were stunned. She continued, "We live in a world where power often hides behind money. But real power, real strength, it's in how we treat people when we think no one's watching." The room fell silent. Victor tried to apologize. Publicly. Repeatedly. But Alexis refused to meet with him. "An apology now doesn't change who he showed himself to be," she said. The backlash grew. Protests outside his offices. Sponsors pulling out. And eventually, Victor's board made a decision. He was removed as CEO. But Alexis didn't stop there. She used her influence to push for new legislation protecting homeless youth. She worked with nonprofits, funded shelters, and spoke at schools and universities. Her name became synonymous with compassion and quiet power. And Victor? He became a cautionary tale. Not because he lost everything, but because he underestimated a girl who looked like she had nothing, when in truth, she had everything that mattered. Sometimes, the people we dismiss are the ones who can change the world. And sometimes, karma doesn't knock. It slaps.